Come on, yes.
Rules and format for the debate. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening statement or introduction. The first candidate to speak will be determined by a coin toss. If there are only 2 candidates, then we'll proceed from left to right. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer a question posed to them. The other candidates will have 30 seconds for a rebuttal. The initial candidate will have 30 seconds to respond to that rebuttal. If a candidate is mentioned by name, then they will have 30 seconds to respond in kind. I reserve the right to ask follow-up questions to each candidate based on the answers that they give to the posed questions. Questions have been submitted on these 3x5 cards. However, if we are running ahead of schedule before the end of the allotted block, then questions will be solicited from the audience. One person at a time. Please no personal attacks in any of your questions. I would like to request that the candidates also adhere to that. Please speak on your record, no personal attacks against your fellow candidates. I would like to proceed in an orderly and respectful fashion. If you cause any disturbances or anything like that, you will be cautioned one time. After that, you will be asked to leave. I want to ensure that respect is shown to all and is adhered to at all times. Are there any questions? Okay, I'm going to start by introducing the District 1 candidates. They will have the floor first. Mr. Chris Baca. Have a seat on the left, sir, in the far chair. Right here. The far chair. I'm sorry, to your right. Mrs. LaDonna Johnson. And Mr. Donovan Sadiq. Anyone have a point?
You need the tape because I gotta take the time. So you can stand on her tape where we feel comfortable. Watch his back. He just really wants to get his time. That's actually
It says, as it is. You will speak first. Mr. Baca, Mr. Sadiq. Mr. Baca, will you call? If it fails, Mr. Sadiq, when would you like to speak? Second? Okay. Mr. Baca, you will be speaking last. Ms. Simpson, your introduction.
Thank you, everyone. When you're campaigning, every minute counts. Every penny counts. Okay, thank you so much. I am LaDonna Jensen. I'm your current city council member, and I have intentions of being re-elected for a 4-year term, November the 8th. I am a 31-year resident of Moreno Valley, and more so, a very active resident. I was not one that people didn't know when I ran for city council. I have been involved in the community, I've been involved in the school district, I've been involved in several nonprofits, and my involvement continues even as a city council member. Currently, I'm a member of the Moreno Valley Environmental Historical Preservation Board, the Moreno Valley Historical Museum, National Alliance of Free Women, and the list goes on. I've been involved in the Moreno Valley Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Music Changing Lives, I've been on the board, and again, the list goes on. I have a heart for service, and a politician needs to be that, needs to be a servant of the people. I do what needs to be done. I listen to my constituents as the #1 priority. I'm visible and I'm accessible to the residents of the community. And so I am very happy to be here. I commend anyone who runs for a political position because it's not easy.
30 seconds.
I am a human resources manager of 24 years also. I bring that up because my professionalism in knowing what to do when it comes to labor laws and different safety regulations and so on has been a great benefit for our city. I know how to work with our city staff. I know how to be a peacemaker. I try not to disrespect my community or disrespect the residents of this city.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sadiq.
My name is Donovan Sadiq, and I'm a 39-year resident here in Moreno Valley. I'm actually still live here in the EDGEmont area. I am one of the people who put on this form because for 39 plus years, if not more, this area has been neglected, and we're having our first elected mayor and our district candidates. And one of the questions as a longtime resident that I would like to know is, what are our mayor and the district candidate going to do about the EDGEmont area? Moreno Valley has been a city for 32 years. It's been 32 years that this problem has been kicked down the can. A lot of stuff that I would like to do is, a lot of people say that I talk. Now, I ran in the recall election 2 years ago, and I started News from EDGEmont. Because the problem is there's not enough talking coming to the EDGEmont area and the district in itself to solve the problems. We have not had a candidate that is willing to solve the problem. The minute they get elected, everything is forgotten. This area proves that. So when we're talking about forgotten and getting stuff done and talking, I'm running on it's deeds, not words. In the time that I've been I haven't even been in office yet. Adrian Mitchell Park plaque was missing. The crosswalks that the kids can cross into the park was missing. There was no city cameras there. $280,000 of road construction that you see that is going on in this area, I advocated for. And at the time, Jesse Molina, the mayor, agreed with me, and we got all of that money. It's not much, but it's a start. But that's what I've done, and I'm not even holding office. So when somebody talks about deeds, not words, that's what we need. We need somebody that's going to take action. We can't kick this problem down the road anymore.
Thank you, Mr. Steve. Mr. Baca?
Good afternoon, everybody. I think most of you know who I am, Chris Baca. I'm running for District 1 City Council. I appreciate the awards from our, I appreciate the awards from our pastor. They were wise words, and I believe I'd like to clarify that myself, I needed guidance to make this decision to run. And the first guidance I got was asking, God Almighty, Jesus Christ, exactly what it is, why I should do this. And, there was nothing but reasons why I should, and I didn't find any reasons why I should. And I believe God comes first. I believe I need to stand up and point out what is wrong with our city. There's quite a few things that are wrong. There's a lot of misdoing in our cities, and we need to understand that. There's things such as a strategic plan. We really need to understand what that strategic plan is and what it is, why it's being proposed, and how it's going to affect our city. I'm going to assure you that if I'm elected, I will make sure that developers, special interests will pay their fair share of promises they made. Such as, I've been reviewing the hearings for the WLC and for the initiative, and there was a lot of promises made there, and I will make sure that those promises are kept. I don't think there's much we can do about the project at this point, but we must assure that all the promises made are kept, and that our taxpayers and our citizens will get what they're entitled to, and not continue in the same path that we've been on since the city was incorporated. So please consider voting for me, and I appreciate your time here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baca. I'm going to kick this off with this very important question that's going to be posed to each candidate. EDGEmont is one of the poorest developed communities in Moreno Valley. If you are elected to city council, what is your vision on developing the EDGEmont community? Mrs. Jimson?
Yes, thank you. Actually, I've already started this process. There is a lot of activity going on in EDGEmont as far as development, as far as road improvements, as far as water lines being replaced. I just had a meeting with the Farragut residents. That is the oldest water pipe system, 4-inch water pipe that is being broken ground as we speak to an 8-inch water pipe. They're finally getting fire hydrants. Everything that happens in the EDGEmont, is that it?
30 seconds.
Everything that happens in the EDGEmont area regarding the water system, the backup, is because of Farragut. And so we're starting there. I brought Box Springs and the city to the table to work together to make this happen. The city got a $650,000 grant to pay for the road improvements, which is going over the water pipes that Box Springs is putting in because I hold them accountable. I attend every meeting.
Mr. Bachman, same question?
Well, as many of you may know, I've been involved in the community for 15 years and we've accomplished quite a few things. When my sister Victoria was in office, we did quite a bit working in the community, such as working with Box Springs Mutual Water, trying to find a solution, but that fell through. We also started the neighborhood cleanup. We did a couple of cleanups in this area. We also got rid of the red cameras that were, targeting people. And there's quite a few things that we've done over the years that have been beneficial to this community. And I think we will, proceed and find a good solution for this. But it's a very difficult situation because, most of these homes are quite old, and I believe, they may be a hazard to people's health. So I think we should address that before we come up with a, concrete solution, because there could be asbestos, there could be lead in paints, and so forth.
Your previous efforts are appreciated, Mr. Bachman, but what future efforts will you make to help develop the EDGEmont area?
Well, like I said, it's difficult to pinpoint anything in particular, but, I think there needs to be some cohesive development with the shareholders. I think most of the land is being banked on, is being held. One of the major shareholders, landowners in this area, believe it or not, is a school district. And they're not doing anything with the land. And the city owns a lot of property, and then banks own a lot of property. And basically, they're just not doing anything but holding on to it. So, I can come up with a million solutions, but will they work?
Understood. Mr. Sadiq, same question.
Yes, a lot of, the whole thing what people gotta understand is this area is a gold mine. There's nothing else to develop but over here in the East End. We can do so many things, and the key to do that is to solve the water problem. Without solving that water problem, nothing is gonna get done. And the water problem that Ms. Jimson keeps alleging that she's doing has nothing to do with she did this or she did that. That was in the works way prior to when Ms. Victoria Baca was on the council. And if you've gone to the City Planning Commission meetings, you would know that.
36.
So, to sit up there and say, oh, I'm taking credit for this, that's what politicians do. We want you to solve the problem. And I have a plan to solve that water problem. And at this point, the only way you can do it, it's very unpopular, is to public domain. And I know people don't want to do that. But if you want it fixed, it's going to cost $25 million that the Box Springs Water Company does not have. But it is a humanitarian issue, and I think that the city has a responsibility to step in there and do it.
Ms. Jensen, would you like to respond?
I would. In regards to what was already in place, Mr. Baca's, Victoria Baca and so on, they spoke to the residents of the community about the opportunities that they had coming to the meetings to discuss their issues, to discuss the quality. When I came into my position, there was a lot of confusion, a lot of issues. Back when Michelle Patterson, the staff member, was being the liaison, she would come and she would listen she'd take it back to the city and nothing was happening
Very
other than coming up with a plan to become the one to take over the EDGEmont community. That is not what the citizens require. That is not what the residents need. They need what's happening now. They need development. They need water pipes. They need new roads. That's what's happening, and it wasn't happening back in Ms. Baca's day. And Mr. Sadiq, Daman, taking over, ask the residents how they feel about that.
With regards to infrastructure, let's take a look at the roads. For example, Premier was recently repaved between Paris and Kitchen. But Kitchen is in much poorer shape than Premier was. So what is the priority for repaving the streets around EDGEmont, around Moreno Valley at large? Because the logic does not seem to be there. It seems that the streets that are in the worst repair are the last to be repaired. Can you answer that question, Ms. Jensen?
I can. The ones in least repair are the ones that cost the most money. And so what happens is the ones that still are salvageable, that can take on slurry seal, it costs less money, and those are being done to save the roads. The ones that are in disarray are the ones that the city is trying to be able to come up with money to be able to do the improvement. So they're doing with the grant monies that are made available, the grant monies that are being used for EDGEmont right now, again, $650,000. They're trying to regain what little they have in some of the roads and not spend a lot more money, which we do not have at this time. So we're jumping on to doing as much slurry seal as possible, which is minimal in cost, but very important to regain what we have.
Isn't that kind of like robbing Peter to pay Paul, even though Peter is worse off? I mean, in the long run, aren't you exacerbating the problem because these streets that are already in disrepair are now getting worse and worse and worse, which is going to create an even more involved repair?
I understand what you say, and I actually agree. I understand the problems. I understand the amount of money that it's going to take. I understand what we used to be, that they would go around and they would repair the streets and then have a schedule that they would come back around in 2 to 3 years. I understand it. That's wonderful. The money is just not there. It is not there. And so the amount of money that it takes to repair a road that's in really bad shape actually could pay for at least 10 streets that need slurry seal and some degree of repair to salvage what we're able to. But I understand, and I commend you. I understand exactly what you're saying, and I support what you're saying. But the city has to make a decision, and it always comes down to finances.
Mr. Sadiq, do you have any creative ideas that can help alleviate a situation such as this?
Well, everyone's got to take it into context. You're sitting next to a city council member who has some information that she's privy to that me and Chris are not privy to. But I can tell you this, for 32 years, money, property tax that I'm paying as an EDGEmont resident, which is supposed to be in an escrow account, is missing. It's like Social Security. The city takes that money for the benefit for the rest of the city. Where is our money? And I'm talking as a resident. And this is what I'm saying. There should be money that has been put aside for us to fix these roads and to fix, especially the road in front of your house. That's why we pay property tax. So you can get in and out of your house and access to the roads. Now, Mr. Jensen was not on the dais back then. We're talking about 32 years of problems, and that's why I'm glad she's here. But the bottom line is, the city is taking money from us that has been allocated in the EDGEmont area for the benefit of the rest of the city, and I don't think that's right.
Mr. Baca, your thoughts on this situation?
Yes, thank you. What first comes to mind is we have a special interest group saying that everything's hunky-dory and just wonderful at City Hall. You know, that's not true. We have severe problems, and I think we need to see where this bleeding is at and all this wasteful spending on nonsense, whereas we brought up the slurry issue years ago with, when Richard Stewart was in office, and we were asking him, well, wait a minute, we got neighborhoods that are crumbling, but yet you're having Sunny Mead Ranch, Sunny Mead Ranch is being slurried when it's a new neighborhood. And, you know, they come up with the same explanation that, you know, there's reason, they come up with a reason why that's a good idea rather than that. My solution would be just for our city to purchase its own slurry machine and start at one end, and by the time they're done in the other end, they start over and just continue repaving these streets. One other issue that people are not aware of is that waste management trucks are being unregulated, and those are the ones that are causing a lot of damage in the neighborhoods.
Thank you. Another hot topic in the Moreno Valley area is the animal shelter. Moreno Valley is a kill shelter. That is a very, very unpopular topic. I lived in San Diego for 5 years. San Diego is a no-kill shelter. All of San Diego County is a no-kill county. When an animal goes into San Diego, it has 4 days before it can even be claimed by anyone to allow the previous owner to claim that dog. Mr. Sadiq, what are your ideas on what we can do about the animal shelter here to stop these senseless killings?
Well, when I ran 2 years ago, I ran on the thing of stopping the killing in the animal shelter. There is no reason why we should be killing perfectly good dogs. Now, recently, the city came out with a report, and it was in the press enterprise, that said, see, we're not killing 3,000 dogs this year, we're only killing 2,000. Anything above one, it doesn't make sense. And as a resident, we've asked Ms. Jimson, from the minute she got on that seat, to put a moratorium and find out why we are killing these animals. There's got to be a reason, financial or whatever the reason is. And Mrs. Jimson has not done one thing. There's a lot of things that we can do to fix that problem, but the thing is, don't tell me we don't have the money. Let's stop killing those animals.
But my question is, Mr. Sadiq, what will you do if you're elected to city council? What will you do to stop the killing of these animals?
Like I just said, I will put a moratorium on the killing, find out what is going on, what is the motivation for us to kill these animals. And as long as it's in my district as a council member, I have the right to say, hold on, stop what you're doing, because you're not going to make me an unpopular council member sitting there because this animal shelter is sitting in my district. We're going to find out what's going on, appointing a rescue coordinator from the same staff that's doing the killing isn't solving the problem. That's like being a concentration camp guard, and then you get promoted to field secretary. You don't use the same staff. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay, so in light of that, you instituted a moratorium. Now you have animals building up day after day after day. How will you fund the upkeep of these animals?
We've got money to divert over here to a developer. We've got money to go to do consultants. We have money in the city. I've seen the city budget. It's a matter of allocating those resources. So I have 3 animals that I adopted from the animal shelter. I'm an animal lover. I'm sorry. I love blood animals. There's no reason why they should be killed. There is money for things like that. So let's stop the killing, period.
Ms. Jensen, can you enlighten us on the city's position on the animal shelter?
I can. I too love animals. I've had an animal, I've had other animals in the past. I would love to stop and support stop killing our animals. It is a known fact that the longer an animal is locked up in a cage amongst other animals, as time goes on, they become very ill. And it requires someone to adopt those animals. Placing a moratorium does not fix the problem. We need someone to take those animals out of the shelter. That is why I felt the rescue coordinator, which was an idea that came from a resident, was a great idea, because that person could facilitate getting more network and rescuers involved to be able to get our animals adopted. But our animals get to the point they become very ill. They get crazed after a while being locked up in the cages, and there's just no additional room. So yes, money is always an issue.
Okay, so have we spoken to any of the neighboring counties who are not kill shelters to find out what they're doing correct, what they're doing incorrect? Because I know San Diego has a pretty high animal adoption rate. They're very successful down there. So are we speaking to San Diego County or any of the other non-kill counties?
Actually, I requested that to happen. There's also one in Palm Springs and San Diego. And I asked staff, I want you to find out what they're doing, and I want you to report back to me as to why is it that we can't do what they're doing. And they basically state, first of all, we no longer take Paris animals. That was a big issue because it was filling up our shelters and it was inflating the numbers. So that is no longer happening. But in regards to San Diego and Palm Springs, personally, I did not speak with them. The city staff did, but they reported that it's apples and oranges. It is not the same. It is not the same situation that they encounter. They're dealing with a lot less smaller population. They're dealing with more active support by the residents. And that's all I can state at that time.
Understood. Mr. Baca, your views on this situation?
Well, I would most likely expand the fostering of animals that are at risk of being euthanized. I think a lot of individuals, households are unaware of the fostering program. And I would also expand that and just, create some kind of awareness that these dogs are in danger of being euthanized within, 48 hours. Please come and, foster these animals until they're ready for adoption or so forth. Maybe even expand it to surrounding, areas. There's a lot of people in LA that don't know that they can do this. I've had people that say, oh, I just bought a cat dog, for $100, and I'm like, you could have bought one in Moreno Valley for $5. So I would expand that. I would just make it more of an awareness that there is such a program. People just do not understand what really is going on with no kill and animal shelters.
This question is near and dear to my heart. If you go through any animal shelter, I mean any animal shelter anywhere in this country, a lot of the breeds in those shelters are the breeds that are restricted in rental areas. German Shepherds, Pit Bulls, Bulldogs, Doberman Pinschers, breeds that have been determined to be aggressive breeds. Now any pet owner knows that it is not the breed, it is the owner. I don't know who establishes these restrictions. Do you? And if you do, what can we do to get that changed? Because it makes no sense to kill a whole breed or a number of breeds of dogs simply because they can't live in this area. Mr. Sadiq?
My understanding of there's a list. When you have your property insurance, there's a list, I believe, of like top 10 dogs. And I believe that the insurance company is behind that because a lot of people get bitten by dogs. And, I guess when you're the robber and you're robbing the house, that's where they can sue you for robbing your house. They'll sue you because your dog bit them. But I believe that's where the list comes from. I don't believe in the list. My dog, Belle, the Wonder Pup, she was listed as a pit bull coming out of the shelter. And she was nowhere near a pit bull. And again, like you said, I agree with you. It is not the dog, it's the owner. And Belle is the sweetest dog there is. But I believe that that's where that list comes from. And there's a problem in the shelter when every dog is listed as a pit bull or a dog that is on that list.
Ms. Jensen?
I will say that I've been working with the shelter to do a better job on attempting to classify as close to the breed as possible. I feel that they have been weak in that area, that time is of the essence, so they post the breed and it ends up being something else. So that is something I'm personally working with the HR director, who is actually over the animal shelter, to improve on that. So I'm definitely with you on that. As far as Linda Blair, she is a major advocate of pit bulls. She has a whole rescue area that she brings all the pit bulls that she can. Unfortunately, when you have a pit bull who has actually bitten someone, whether it's the owner or someone else, it is extremely difficult to either get a rescue or a foster or anyone to take on that pit bull. So it's reality at this point. As far as the insurance guiding what, which ones can and can't be here, I was unaware that it was the insurance company doing that. I think there's more to it than that.
Mr. Bachman?
As far as the breeds,
Breathe.
I'm a pit bull lover. I've had pit bulls, and I think they're being unfairly categorized as dangerous animals. I think all dangerous and all animals are dangerous depending on their circumstances. So I don't know really what the solution is at this point, but we just got to fight out on fostering and rescuing and making sure that as many animals as we can do not get euthanasia.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bachman, how would you go about funding mental health and homeless services here in Moreno Valley?
Well, there's a lot of services available. I think we need to bring a better awareness into our city. We have to address it and understand that many of the homeless people here have issues and need services, and our city really needs to pinpoint and really understand that we can do something, not just turn the blind eye and say, they have rights to do, wander the streets and do, panhandling and so forth. One of the issues that I'd like to bring about is panhandling and bringing out some kind of a program where stores and so forth, like 7-Eleven or so forth, have a program, city-sponsored program. Don't give money to panhandlers, give it to a charitable organization. And when you see a panhandler, tell them, give them a card, maybe purchase a card with something, go here, and they'll help you, rather than, because there's a lot of panhandling.
Yes, but how will we fund help for the mental ill and for the homeless? How do we go about funding those services?
Right, we need to find funding. There's a lot of grants, there's a lot of programs, it's all creative. We need to sit down and find out what's there and what we can get. I can't, we don't know because it hasn't been done.
Mrs. Jimson?
Yes, we depend a lot on our counties as far as the funding goes, in regards to mental health. And when we were coordinating the strategic plan, that was something that I was adamant about homeless shelters, because you need to provide them safety and shelter in order to provide them services that they need. Unfortunately, what we found is many of the homeless, not all, but many of the homeless on our